everybody, and welcome back to Careers in a Crunch. I'm Arthi, and today I'm joined by Chintan Pujara. Super excited for him to be here and hear about his career path. So I want to take a second just to thank you for allowing me to interview you.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. Before we get started, I did want to say a moment to say, hey, I think you're doing an incredible job here. I wish when I was in high school, I had resources like this to listen to and help me identify a career path at that stage in my life. So I think what you're doing is incredibly valuable for your peers.
Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, I guess we can just get started with some questions. So, yeah, first off, what does a typical day in your role look like?
Yeah, so to give you context, so what I do today is I am the CFO for PepsiCo Canada. So just this context. So in Canada, the PepsiCo business is about $5 billion of revenue, and we sell both foods and beverages, right? So you may know a little bit about the beverages, which is Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Gatorade, Bubbly, and then the foods is the Lay's, the Kurkures, the Cheetos, and the Doritos. What I say I love about my job is none of my days looks exactly alike. There are days when, one of our manufacturing lines isn't working, and we think about how to source our product from a different location to get it to the consumer in time. There are days when we work on innovation. So all of these line extensions that you see, the different flavors or the different packages. So we'll work with the marketing and design teams and the product teams and the R&D teams to make new products that eventually our consumers will like. There are also days when we work with what we call our procurement teams, right? So what goes into the products, whether it's potatoes or it's seasoning or it's even like plastic where the product is shipped into. So we work with our procurement teams in terms of sourcing some of the raw materials that I get in our products. So that's the best part about my job. It's not one day doesn't look similar to the next day.
Yeah, that's super interesting. You're talking about the different parts of your job and how, right, obviously no day looks the same, which I think is something that I think is really cool about a lot of jobs that, there's always something new and something different to look forward to. So, yeah, I think that's really great. What did you major in and how did that shape your career if it did?
Yeah, so when I got into undergrad, I knew I was sort of going into a world that was finance focused. I didn't exactly know within the world of finance what that would look like, but I went to Stern and I majored in finance and international business. That was my major. I think where that helped is it was foundational, right? So there's certain things like when I went into business school, I think you guys are well ahead of the curve. I didn't know what revenue was or what income statements were or what cash flow was. I was never exposed to that in high school. So I think what college helped me with is the foundations of what it means to understand finance. And then it also helped me sort of try and understand a little bit of what different careers looked like. So then I was able to take that. So CFO was on my first career. I started as an investment banker. So I was able to take that, dabble a bit into a few different sort of careers, and then eventually found the one that I thought that I would enjoy the most in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's really cool how your where your major sort of I guess set you up, but it was sort of like the building blocks for what you ended up doing and how you sort of I think got to experience a few different things before you found what really worked for you and what you were I think most passionate about.
Yeah.
How has your leadership style evolved over the course of your career?
It's a really good question. So here's what I tell you. When I started my career, it was really about delivering what we call individual work, right? So I had managers, I didn't have a team that reported to me, and a lot of my work was about just delivering what was asked of me. As I got further into my career, I had larger and larger teams to manage and people to think about. Um, I say at the onset, I was so determined just to make a good impression and get work done that I was really more focused on the work. And I think what's changed over the years as grown into, I guess, a leader is what I've understood more is that as a leader, it's more about taking care of your people. Yeah, you still have to get the work done, But the reality is I can't be in every meeting. I can't make any decisions. So I have a great team that sort of enables me to do that. My role as a leader is twofold. One, making sure that I give them the resources that allow them to get the work done, so clear any blocks. And two, I really give them what I talk about, just caring for them, right? So how do they want to grow in their career? How do they want to take on new challenges? What are the different options that they're available to? And I think what has helped is, if you have a really good team, as long as you take care of the team and making sure that they are set up to succeed, the work will follow.
Yeah, I think that's really great. Sort of right part of being a team, as you said, is caring for the other people in your team and um, having creating sort of a path for them to also be successful. And I think
That's
that
right.
sort of combination of the leader and the team sort of go hand in hand and make sure that to have like successful outcomes. So I think that's like really important.
Yeah.
What are some of the key responsibilities you oversee in guiding PepsiCo's financial direction and long-term planning?
So, I think the way I would think about that is, right, so I sit on Canada's leadership committee, and within that, my role is to make sure that I provide a fact-based, data-based approach in how PepsiCo approaches decisions, right? So, the high level, again, I think I mentioned it, I'm responsible for the financial and strategic aspects of PepsiCo. So the way I think about my responsibility is over a course of a day, a week, a year, we make tons of decisions, right, as to the future of the company. They're from something as simple as, hey, what do we want to price this product as, to something more complex as, hey, should we go acquire a business, right? It really, the spectrum is pretty wide. What I bring to the table is a number of things. One is wanting to make sure that I and my chair understand the challenge that's in front of us. And then the second thing I think about really is as as once I've understood the problem, how should I think about bringing some analysis to it, right? So a large part of what my team does is they bring data and analytics to the problem. And together, in terms of understanding the problem and having the data and the analytics, we try and provide sort of an informed view to the CEO and the leaders as to our recommendation. And then we go forth and have a dialogue around as to what we think makes sense for the business.
Yeah, I think that's right. You definitely have a lot of different things that you do and you bring to the table. So there's a lot of things what you said about sort of problem solving. I think that can of course be seen as in your role, but also to a lot of high schoolers. I think that sort of when you have a problem, right, look for a way to solve it, right, from different perspectives and views before you sort of try and tackle the problem. So I think that's a sort of something that can be taken in like different ways, I think.
Yeah, I know it's a great point that you bring about it, right? So one of the things that we always speak about is empathy. And empathy in this case is just making sure that you understand different points of view, right? So even in high school, as you take that approach to that before you try to find a solution, you make sure you hear the other person out. It will serve you a long way.
Yeah, I totally agree. What qualities make somebody successful in a modern finance organization?
Ye- So I think what I would say is a couple of things. One, I would say, which is very baseline, is just integrity. Integrity is just fundamental to what we do, especially in the finance professional, right? If people don't believe that you're coming from a place where you're transparent and you're responsible for the numbers and you speak to them in a candid manner, everything else doesn't matter. So I think the baseline of it is just big integrity. And that sometimes means that you're not always going to have the good news. Sometimes you're going to have bad news, but as long as you're very transparent about it, it's very crucial to how we run. Like being able to say being able to just have have that responsibility and authority to just be like, hey, this is what it is without hiding anything. So that's one. The second thing that we spoke about a little bit is empathy, right? So again, making sure that you understand different points of views and making sure you understand where people come from. And then the third, I think, characteristics that's important is accountability, right? So once you set out and hey, you've talked to everyone and you've decided on a decision, making sure that you deliver what you're supposed to deliver, but also you try and hold people accountable for deliver what they are supposed to deliver, right? So I think the combination of those three things is very powerful.
Yeah, I think obviously those are some really important skills for someone in maybe like finance, as obviously we were talking about, but also I think, right, these three skills can be used anywhere for anybody, right? Really important. I think, as you were saying, integrity, empathy, and accountability are just in general, I think, really important qualities and skills to be able to have, because I just think like sort of, right, empathy, being able to like sort of talk to other people and feel for other people, accountability, taking responsibility for actions and decisions, and then, right, integrity, just I guess sort of like perseverance, things like that. So I think those are some really important qualities. Um, what are some challenges you face in your job and how do you handle them?
Um, it's a really good question. Look, I think what I tell you is, you know, our business is unique and it's undergoing a lot of transition, right? So even in our leadership committees, we have different points of view on where the business is today versus where the business should be in the future, and how do we get from point A to point B. Um, how do we face them again? I think ties back to what we speak about earlier, right? It's making sure that you understand why someone is feeling different from how you are. That's sort of one, so making sure that we address it. Then it's making sure that you take a data approach, right? You take this approach where you're not just talking about your emotions, because people do have strong emotions to how they want to see certain things, but you try and take a data-based approach in terms of trying to learn the facts. And then the reality is you're trying to marry the two of them. And within that, a number of different skill sets come into play. Rather, it's negotiation. You're not going to get everything that you want. So maybe there's a little bit of give and get. There is a little bit of influencing, trying to bring people around on your ways and why you think your way might be more relevant versus different proposed solutions. But I think a combination of your approach to the problem versus talking through the problem with your colleagues and bringing them along on the journey to your problem. And then the last piece, again, we talked about is once you made the decision, then holding hands and just being like accountable to say, hey, look, we had a chance to debate, we had a chance to discuss, we've done all of that, we've come to the decision. And not everyone's going to be happy with it. You may have only gone 50% of what you want, or even maybe even less. But once you made a decision, making sure that everyone is working towards that same outcome, I think is really important. And that's what we try to do.
Yeah, I think that, right, the challenges you explained definitely sound sort of, I think, difficult, but right, the solutions that I think you talked about and sort of like um negotiation and sort of course it's not always going to be work out for everybody, but for sort of like maybe like best what's best for the team and the company, right, as a whole is always, I think, important to sort of look forward and, right, do what's best for the entirety. So, right, I think that's yeah, like a great sort of solution.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess what inspired you to um pursue the right your role in finance?
Um, so I think there's a couple of things there. First and foremost, I say I like being at PepsiCo because I'm a bit of a foodie. So I like being in an industry where the product is tangible. And what I mean by tangible is you can touch it, you can smell it, you can eat it, and that's relevant. Like I've always enjoyed that. Even when I'm on vacation, sometimes I stop in a grocery store and look at all the products that they have, and I go around being like, oh, maybe we should buy that or we should have done that. So having something that felt tangible, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're in the foods or whether you like cars or whether you like sport or whatever it is, but having something that you can relate to, I think is important. And to me, that was sort of the industry piece of it as to why I'm in sort of a consumer product platform. The second thing about it is, look, I like solving problems as part of it, right? So, um, when you are doing different roles in finance, sometimes let's say you do investment banking roles, you're sort of sitting in a bank and you're advising a company and you give them a lot of different options. And it's a great job, by the way. It's a really good job. But at the end of the day, you're on the outside advising. In my role, I am taking maybe that advice, I'm taking my own analysis, and then I have to go make that decision. And sometimes the decision works out great. Sometimes the decision doesn't work out great and I'm wrong. But at the end of the day, I get to roll up my sleeves. I get to decide on a possible future, and I get to work with a very talented group of people in terms of driving towards that outcome. So I like the tangible aspects of just rolling up my sleeves and getting my hands dirty and working towards something. So I think that's why I'm sort of where I am.
Yeah, I think that's really amazing. And I really like what you said about obviously something tangible and something that you can sort of, like you said, relate to, something that really, I think, interests you and sort of captures your attention. Um, Something that you have like a passion for, right? So I think
Mhm.
that's something really important that a lot of high schoolers would benefit from hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of going into advice, if you could go back and give your high school self one or more piece of advice, what would you tell your past self?
Yeah, what I tell you a little bit is what I tell myself, I guess, is your career is a journey. Okay. And within that, it's really important for you to make sure that you go out and you try out different things. Like I didn't come into this place. This wasn't the first thing I fell in love with, and I kind of came out. But you know, what I didn't appreciate quite that much is like I came out of high school wanting to go to college. I came out of college wanting to do this. And I was trying to be very, very structured and be like A leads to B, B leads to C, C leads to D. But the reality is it's not linear. It goes up, it goes down, it goes circular or something like that. But within all of those different turning points, as long as you're learning something, whether you're learning something about the field that you're in, whether you're learning something about yourself, all of that will help you in your building blocks to it, right? So, take a moment not to stress too much about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, but make sure that you think about this as just a long-term journey where you're doing different things to help you build towards the ultimate goal in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece of advice. Sort of like you were saying, sort of like, you were saying about that it's like a long journey and everything doesn't exactly have to go right according to plan, right? There's a lot of like turns and different moments and aspects in, right, your life. But sort of what you're saying about learning something from
Right.
each, I guess, experience you've done went through or moment in your life, I think is really important because that in the end will lead you to something, right? That
Yeah,
is like
definitely.
right for you and like the good a good fit. So I think that's really important. Um, and what advice would you give to high school students who are still unsure about what they want to do?
I'd say two things. One, again, it's completely okay. Okay, you're in the very early stages of trying to figure out what a professional career looks like. So, uh, don't let that, don't let where you are today worry you in that sense. The other advice I give you is don't compare yourselves. At the end of it, your career, your ambitions, all of it is your personal life journey. And I know that's super hard, by the way. I did it all the time, right? Like you may be in a place and your friends gotten into the dream school, or your other friends, the captain of some team, and maybe you just haven't quite figured it out. As humans, we compare. It's what we do. Like I did it in high school, I did it in college, I probably did it in the earlier part. I think what you find out over time is that the only comparison that matters is the comparison to yourself. Are you today closer to where you want to be versus where you were 20 years ago? Because again, everyone's journey is going to be different. Everyone's going to have different things that happen to them over the course of years and decades or something like that. So focus on your own journey. It doesn't have to be linear. It can have ups, it can have downs. Just make sure that you're pushing forward, learning, experiencing new things, and the rest will sort itself out.
Yeah, I think those are two really great pieces of advice. And I think, right, what you said about comparison, it's sort of almost like inevitable, right? Especially I think in high school, there's a lot of different, um, I think things like sports, as you said, and like school, right? And it's like hard not to compare. But as you were saying, everyone's journey is their own, and it's important to follow what, right, makes, right, you sort of like, special and something that really is like for you, your interests, your passion. So, yeah, I think that those are just really great piece of advice that I think everyone would really benefit from hearing. So, yeah. Thank you so much. This was amazing. I learned so much, and I know that everybody watching will too.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for having me. It was great to be here, and I'm glad I could help a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye. That's it for this episode of Careers in a Crunch. If you found today's conversation helpful and informative, be sure to share it with a friend or family member. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an interview. Thanks. Bye.